What's up, guys? Now, UFC on Fox 31 in Milwaukee just ended, and I wasn't going to make a post-fight reaction video to it, but the fights were so amazing, man. And the trend it's real. Whenever you have these average-looking cards, quote-unquote average-looking cards, they usually really perform well, most of the time better than the big cards. And man, did this one deliver. We have to start with that main event. Kevin Lee versus Iaquinta, where Iaquinta wins a decision, 248-47s, and 149-46. Now, what do you say about this fight? It was kind of reminiscent to the first fight where Iaquinta had the moments on the feet. Kevin Lee was trying to strike with him and went to the ground with Iaquinta and had his back in the fight. Almost every time he took down Iaquinta, he actually got his back, which is crazy. And this time, Kevin Lee, he was just much bigger than he was before. He was way stronger than he was before. It was very obvious, the strength advantage, especially with those takedowns. The double legs, the body locks, the slams. I mean, Iaquinta had a hard time stopping those, but he had very good submission defense, especially the rear naked choke defense. Always fighting the hands. Kevin Lee got close in the second round with some of those rear naked chokes, and my prediction about the fight, I did pick Kevin Lee, but I thought he would have finished him in the second round with one of those chokes. But it just showed Iaquinta's submission defense is just so good, man. It's so good. He has gotten so much better than people have expected. Even with his layoff before, I mean, the guy just evolved to new heights, and he can be one of the elites in this division if he just keeps going on and isn't as inactive as he usually is. And can we talk about that right hand? I mean, we're talking about accuracy like a sniper. Almost every time he threw that right hand, it landed. Rocked Kevin Lee in the 5th round of all rounds. I know Lee was a little bit tired, but Iaquinta just never goes away. Full of energy in the 5th round himself. And Lee, early on, he took the southpaw stance and changed it to orthodox later and really never went back to the southpaw stance. And what he was doing was, it was kind of shocking him throwing a lot of jabs, and it was working on Iaquinta. Iaquinta kind of leaves his chin out there, and he's really good at moving away from the power hand of the opponent. But Khabib kind of exposed the jab defense of Iaquinta. He's not fast enough to react to the jab with head movement, and he doesn't really parry a whole lot, so he always looks for the power hand. He's very effective at slipping that, which he was doing on Kevin Lee, right? Kevin Lee was throwing some jabs, connecting Iaquinta. He'll throw some left hands down the center. Iaquinta would very slightly move his head on the outside, and then what Kevin Lee would try to do is he would try to throw the left hand or fake it, get the constant rhythm reaction out of Iaquinta from the left hand, and try to intercept him with the left high kick, which is coming around as Iaquinta moves his head on the outside. But it's such a winded up kick. Iaquinta's movements are so small, it's going to be hard to catch him with those. And Iaquinta has some amazing single legs to spinning elbows, single legs to left overhands. Very slick moves out there that Iaquinta's never used anything like before. That left shovel hook in the 5th round that rocked Kevin Lee. And DC actually made a very good point. I actually want to say DC and Paul Felder did an amazing job. Their commentating was so on point the entire night. I was so impressed. I do think Daniel Cormier is the best commentator in the UFC. If you combine his analysis with his commentating, nobody's on his level, I believe. But what he was saying was, Kevin Lee had a very good weight cut this time, right? No excuses for him. Very good weight cut, and he usually comes in drained for the fight, and he gets rocked a lot easier than he did tonight. I mean, Iaquinta's known for that right hand, very powerful punches, and he ate them for the most part. I mean, he got rocked in the 5th round, and he got stunned a little bit throughout the fight, but those shots would have knocked down Kevin Lee before, right, when he was drained coming into it. So he was able to take a lot of those shots. Kevin Lee shows some toughness out there. Iaquinta, man, you can't put that guy away. As soon as I saw Kevin Lee in the 5th round, not going for takedowns as much, he would go for like one a round, I knew he wasn't going to knock out Iaquinta, so it was going to be a very hard night for him. He tried to strike with Iaquinta a lot more than I thought he should have, right? I understand going for takedowns will be exhausting to him, and Iaquinta does have a better gas tank, but that's really where his advantages lay out, and it showed in the fight as well. That's what I expected from Kevin Lee coming into the fight. I thought he would be shooting a lot on Iaquinta, pumping out some jabs, and shooting in. Maybe a left hand to disguise his takedowns. But he came out there striking a lot with Iaquinta, and Iaquinta's striking has greatly evolved. So who should these guys fight next? Iaquinta was number 8. I expect him to be number 6 or number 5 now in the lightweight division. You know, beating the number 4 Kevin Lee, who was on a roll. Justin Gaethje would always be amazing. I know they were supposed to fight before, I believe. That fight would be really, really fun. Dustin Poirier actually would be amazing as well. And Edson Barboza. Edson Barboza had a good win tonight, so you could do that fight. Justin Gaethje, Dustin Poirier. The fight I would love to see the most would obviously be Justin Gaethje. I think that fight makes a lot of sense. If not that, Edson Barboza makes a lot of sense as well. The winner of that fight, I believe, would be one fight away from, or one win away from fighting for the title. And for Kevin Lee, I don't think he's going to drop too much. Outside top 5, of course, but just outside of it, I think him versus Anthony Pettis makes a lot of sense. That's the fight I would probably make. Anthony Pettis is the number 7 ranked. And here's another thing. Kevin Lee was shocked about the decision. There is no controversy, no robbery in this fight. It all came down to the first round because Lee obviously won the 2nd and 3rd. Iaquinta obviously won the 4th and the 5th. First round was very, very close. Iaquinta on all the scorecards, I believe, got that round. If he didn't get that round to win the fight, then these judges are out of their mind, I believe. Then we go to the co-main event. Edson Barboza finishes TKO's Dan Hooker in the 3rd round, 2 minutes and 19 seconds into the round. What can you say about this? Barboza put on a clinic. The thing I said before is Dan Hooker, he has what it takes to beat a guy like Barboza, but he cannot fight Barboza like he fights everybody else. This is exactly what I said, and it proved into the fight. You can't fight Barboza in the center of the octagon at a distance. I believe almost nobody can beat Barboza in that space with that style. You have to push the pace on him because his kicks are way too dynamic. They're way too fast. There is no telegraph to any of them. I mean, he will switch kick on you and there's no telegraph on it. It's crazy. And Dan Hooker, man, he just took a beating out there. A beating he should not have taken. Someone should have stopped that fight. Someone should have stopped it. He showed, just like Brian Ortega, it's the same thing. These young guys, they're taking this beating and the ref and or the coaches could cost them a meaningful ongoing career here. These guys are way too tough to quit. So someone has to save them from themselves. I don't think Hooker should have come out in the 3rd round, whether it be him, understanding he shouldn't be, understandable that he's not going to quit, but the ref and especially the coaches should be saying something out there because that 3rd round was scary to watch. It was like watching one of these gore movies that you just don't want to see anything bad happen anymore, right? When I was watching it, I had a feeling nobody was going to stop it until Edson Barboza really put a beating on Hooker to the point where he couldn't continue, which the threshold to do that is absolutely insane. So you know the beating that Hooker was going to take for the finish to come. So it was like, I know nobody's going to stop this, and I'm forced to watch it and just hoping nothing bad happens in the process. And it got bad, man. It got really bad. Those kicks to the body. It's great that he didn't get finished by a headshot, but micro concussions were definitely taking place there. I believe, if I'm not wrong, the ref asked him what year it was, or the doctor or the ref asked him what year it was, and he said 2019. Still didn't finish or end the fight. The shots to the body were absolutely terrifying. The spinning kicks to the body, I mean, you could feel that just watching it. And you could see Dan Hooker is amazing, man. That guy's toughness is out of this world. He was taking those spinning kicks to the body, and part of him wanted to fold under, but part of him did not want to fold under. And he just came right back up like a zombie and marched forward again. And just ran into more kicks and more jabs. And it almost went to his favor, I think, in the 2nd round, where Edson Barboza followed him to the ground with one of the most questionable fight decisions I've ever seen a fighter make. I mean, he was winning the stand-up, and he goes and falls Hooker to the ground after I think he knocked him off balance because he destroyed Hooker's legs early on, or his lead leg, which forced Hooker to take a parallel stance, as well as a very narrow orthodox stance. Couldn't really come out with punches because of that. So Barboza was really not in any threat from any power from Hooker. And he fell him to the ground, and then Hooker just... You know Hooker's a very slick BJJ artist with very slick submissions. And I thought, man, Barboza just dug himself here. He got out of it and just put on more of a clinic on Hooker. So just like Brian Ortega, we just saw, and guys like Dan Hooker, it's great to know that they are very tough. I don't know if you say honorable thing. It's a very respectful thing when you see that in these fighters, but you never want to show that, man, because that kind of damage can permanently destroy a fighter, especially young fighters. Which is why coaches, I understand they have faith in their fighters, but you cannot be delusional, right? There's still a human being out there with a career. This isn't their last fight. They have so many more fights to get prepared for, and they're going to put their entire health on this one fight. And the other fights, they're just going to get knocked out senseless in every single fight. We've seen this many times happen. You can't be delusional. Yes, be confident in the fighter, but don't be delusional in their skills. You got to be honest with them. And you got to be honest with yourselves about their skills. So who these guys should be fighting next? Barboza versus Iaquinta makes a lot of sense, especially for Barboza. He could be fighting Justin Gaethje. Justin Gaethje's open for everybody, right? I don't know if he has a fight, though. No, he doesn't. So they could do Barboza versus Justin Gaethje. They could do Iaquinta. And that's pretty much it. I mean, he already beat Anthony Pettis. He already lost to Kevin Lee. Dustin Poirier, I don't think would take that fight. It would be on the table, I think, but I don't know if that fight would happen. and everybody else is too low in the rankings. A fight I would love to see him in is Justin Gaethje. I mean, the leg kicks would be insane. The back and forth would be insane. Justin Gaethje could push the pace and finish Barboza. I mean, he actually has a style that we've always seen to give Barboza trouble. And to the contrary, Justin Gaethje actually leaves himself very open to high kicks and knees. And those are some of Barboza's best weapons. So they both have like a kryptonite to each other. And it makes for an exciting fight. And Justin Gaethje, before he came into the UFC, he actually called out Barboza as his first fight. Because he didn't want any easy fights. So that's the fight I'd probably make. Then we go to Rob Font beating Sergio Pettis by decision. What do you say about this fight? Rob Font was just bigger. He had a lightning quick jab, way better of a boxer, and the size played so much into this fight. Sergio Pettis, not only could he do anything on the ground really to Font, but he didn't have the power to really threaten Rob Font. I mean, he never made Font step backwards, and Font just peppered him with jabs. Not just peppered him, he was destroying Pettis' eyes. Pettis never slipped on the punches, was never really elusive in the entire fight, which I think he should have been. I mean, he's a smaller guy. He shouldn't be standing in front of Font and going blow for blow with him. I mean, that's ill-advised tactics right there. So at the end of the day, it's a great win for Rob Font, and Sergio Pettis is going to have a lot of trouble against these bigger 135ers, man. Because these guys, they don't have to be as skilled as Pettis. Pettis is very skilled. They just have to impose their size and strength on top of him. Especially with the style of Pettis. He's not really a wrestler, and he's not this powerful, pressuring fighter on the feet. He's a Taekwondo guy with good BJJ and solid other fundamentals. So he's not a headstrong kind of a guy. People can impose their size on him a lot easier. So who these guys should be fighting next? Rob Font was the number 10 ranked. I think he's going to go up a little bit. I think him versus John Dodson would be an amazing fight. That's probably the fight I would make for them. That would be a very explosive boxing match, I think, in MMA. And for Sergio Pettis, I don't know, man. Someone outside the top 15. You got to get this guy ready for the 135ers because it's going to be tough for him in there. It's going to be tough for him. Then Jim Miller versus Charles Oliveira. Oliveira wins by submission in the first round, 1 minute and 15 seconds into the round. What do you say about this fight? I mean, Oliveira just evolved. People are pointing out to me that Jim Miller should win this fight because he beat Oliveira 9 years ago. I mean, it's 9 years ago for a reason. The game evolves, and some people seem to forget about that. I mean, Oliveira's younger. He was very young when he fought Jim Miller. Just the game evolved. That's really what it came down to. Oliveira kept up with the game where Miller stayed the same until Oliveira surpassed him greatly, where Jim Miller submitted Oliveira very fast in their first fight in the first round with a knee bar, and Oliveira turned the tables on him, submitted him with a rear naked choke very early in the first round. So it's a great win by Oliveira. Took the back, body lock, slam, sunk in the hooks, snatched onto the rear naked choke really quick. So who these guys should be fighting next? I think Oliveira said he's going to go down 145. I don't think that's a smart move. I know he made 152 for this fight. Came in a bit undersized. At 145, he just doesn't make weight easily. I don't know what it is. He's so inconsistent with it. I think he can do it if he's very disciplined with his diet, but I don't know, man. It's a risk. It's a risk. He's missed weight so many times at 145, and I think he's very healthy and strong at 155. So I like to see him at 155, but if he says he's going 145, who he should be fighting there? The loser of Chad Mendes versus Volkanovski makes a lot of sense. I'd love to see that too, stylistically against either of those guys. And as for Jim Miller, I'd love to see him fight Olivier Aubin-Mercier. That'd actually be a really exciting grappling match if it got to the ground. I know Aubin-Mercier is a bit better of a striker, I believe, and he's bigger than Jim Miller. But I think that's the fight to make. They're both coming off losses. Then we go to Bobby Green versus Drakkar Klose, where Klose won a decision, I believe 29-28 on all scorecards? Or was it a split decision? I forgot. But Drakkar Klose did a good job. It was a great fight. One of the best fights of the night. Would have probably won fight of the night if it wasn't for the fight before this one. I mean, Bobby Green is a showman out there. I mean, it's so exciting to watch this guy fight. Talking trash in the beginning, really good boxing defense, and Klose was missing all of his punches, but he was throwing heat out there. Really trying to take out Green. But the leg kicks, man, when you take that boxing stance and you try to defend the punches the way Green does, the kicks get wide open for his opponent. Green almost had a rear naked choke on one of Klose's takedowns. But other than that, it was just pretty much the same way going through every single round where Klose was landing a lot of kicks, a lot of punches were getting thrown, Green was landing some good counters. But Klose did have some questionable decisions himself when he was trying to go for that suplex. I forgot he was trying to go for the mighty whiz bar or whatever DJ calls it, the suplex to an armbar, or he's trying to go for a choke midair. I mean, Green easily defended it, got on top into half guard, I believe. Green was just a better wrestler / grappler overall. So great fight by these guys. I actually like to see Drakkar Klose fight Gilbert Burns. both coming off wins. I believe the winner of that should get a shot into the top 15. Those two guys are obviously one of the best guys outside of top 15. And then for Bobby Green, I mean, he's been doing this for a while as a veteran in the sport. I think fighting another veteran would be actually pretty good for him. I think him versus Jim Miller makes a lot of sense. So that was probably one of the fights I would make. If not that one, if not that fight, maybe him versus Jared Gordon if there isn't any other vets in the sport. Then we go to Jared Gordon versus Joaquim Silva, where Silva won by KO in the 3rd round. I mean, what do you say about this fight, man? It was so crazy. Back and forth, but Jared Gordon was doing pretty well for the most part in the fight. Landing right hands. They were both landing a lot of right hands on each other. Right overhands were landing clean on each other. Both rocking each other throughout the fight. Both getting takedowns on each other, although Gordon did seem like a better grappler overall. But the thing was, Silva worked the entire body of Gordon. Once he was getting the back of Gordon, he got the knee bar. Same thing that Zabit Magomedsharipov did in his last fight. Really damaged the leg of Gordon, the right leg. And Gordon didn't have any snap in his punches anymore. Didn't have any way to explode and launch himself into his punches. And that really hindered his ability to back off Silva in the 3rd round. And Silva started working the body, man. He was going hooks to the body, very much like Paulo Costa does. Whipping body shots. You could see it was starting to take a toll on Gordon. He started to hunch over a little bit. Wasn't throwing output as much. And Silva just took him out with a headshot. Landed that overhand right, which rocked Gordon. And then just went hooks to the head. And Gordon is so tough. He was knocked out standing against the cage. I mean, that is crazy. Legitimately, nothing was holding him up. He was literally standing knocked out. It was absolutely crazy to see. And it was a great win for Silva. So a guy he should be fighting next, I believe, actually Drakkar Klose makes a lot of sense, both fighting on the same night. If not that, Gregor Gillespie would be a very fun fight. But a fight I would love to see the most would be Nasrat Haqparast. That would be crazy. That would be an absolute war. Both guys are dangerous, powerful strikers. Haqparast is going to have the speed advantage, but Silva's going to have the power advantage. Both opposite stances, I think. And Haqparast has a good ground game as well as wrestling defense. And Silva has powerful takedowns and very dangerous on the ground himself. I think the winner of that should get a crack into the top 15 as well. That is absolutely the fight to make. And for Jared Gordon, like I said, him versus Bobby Green makes a lot of sense. Or him versus Nick Hein or something like that. So I did actually miss the rest of the fights. I'm going to have to catch up on those later after Bellator ends. Naaman Gracie about to fight Ed Ruth, which is a fight I'm much anticipated for. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up. If you enjoyed my content, make sure to subscribe. Now, I did say the John Jones versus Alexander Gustafsson breakdown video is going to come out this weekend. It still can come out tomorrow. It might not be my next video, but I really don't want to rush it. It's actually taking me a lot of time. There's a lot to break down in the fight, of course, as you would expect. A lot more than I thought, so it might take a little bit longer than I expected. It could come out Monday, it can come out Tuesday, so be lookout early to mid next week, and I'll have that out for you guys. Then I'll make a breakdown of one of the fights this weekend. So again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.